The Punch TV. Adolfo no mama makwa baba ye the Punch TV so make sure say any day di kind na dey hwe channel ya na che say obe subscribe dey ama ye no like no share we so abeja wadwenche e comment section ho enso e dey aka ye ho abusuafo say wa onim say the Punch TV dey ba na current stories ne political affairs bia yes say the Punch TV dey dem ba kope abusuafo say amle america say story bi flow so abebo for mama che say apai ama che say gentle ha obi a twe ne sere ne abasa abusuafo mma yenko hwe story ne mra ye ba ye de mu nchiremu nyina ebebrem.
Argue with the fact that when you host a tournament and you bring everybody else on the continent to your country, it should give you a bit of leverage, at least if for nothing at all, to market your country. So how do we make it count? The stories, though, coming out of the Africa Games in the last few days is proving a bit challenging that objective we set for ourselves for investing that much into the games. If at all, the stories I've seen in international media circles have not been positive. A lot of it has been negative. So let's examine why that is the case. But most importantly, all is not lost just yet. How do we recover what we've already destroyed in the last few days with the next few days before the games end? Is a fundamental question because we've already put in the investment. What do we know tonight? A few things. Just the basics. We like numbers here. We have a total of 13,000 athletes, officials, volunteers, and guests coming from all over Africa into Ghana to compete, but also to make sure that the games go according to plan. So this is actually good. You have all these people coming in. Some of them will spend some money. There is an economic spin-off from that. So that argument is great if you begin to look at the numbers of solely those participating or making the event happen, right? So that is positive. What else do we know? We've also invested quite a bit of money to have infrastructure that we did not have before. So we have now the University of Ghana Stadium. You drive there possibly right now, you will see that the lights are on, the floodlights are on. We spent $34 million on it. And then you go to Baltimore, you have $145 million that we pumped into the Baltimore infrastructure. And then you go to the Games Village, where we spend $16 million, a total of $195 million. The fundamental question to ask, though, that we always will ask on the show when we spend this amount of money, considering the kind of economic crisis we're currently facing, is this really worth it at this time? But of course, you have to go back a bit because this is not something that right to host this is something that we won in the last 2 years. We won it before COVID struck, before the economic crisis began to bite, but we found money to do it. So if you've invested in it, you better make good use of it. You better make it count. Is that what we are seeing right now? Many say they're seeing the opposite of this. You're not making this investment count. In addition to the amount I mentioned of $195 million, we also spent $47.7 million on operational expenses. And what was this used for, according to the ministry? Paying allowances, accommodation. Well, the athletes participating in the All Africa Games will have to sleep somewhere. The hotels, the transportation, the internal arrangement, the medical equipment, and others. All of it comes together to form that particular box sum that I introduced you to, $47.7 million. So we've spent some money to ensure that the games go on smoothly, so we don't have challenges, right? And for me, that figure is important because we had said to ourselves that we anticipated that the number of people who are going to come in will need to ensure that their movement is facilitated. And so let's spend $47 million. And that's a lot of money for a poor country like Ghana, right? This, in essence, is the breakdown, but also a picture of the comparison between what Morocco spent in 2019 and what we are spending in 2024. And remember that, yes, of course, it's 2024, but we spend the bulk of the sum last year to build, to set the stage for this. And look at the gap here. We're talking about $46 million for Morocco. We are talking about $242 million. What is accounting for this significant disparity in what Morocco spent and what we are spending? Morocco is a far advanced sporting country, so the investment and the infrastructure possibly is already there. So you don't need this much to spend to get your infrastructure up to scratch, right? But still, that 46 million compared to 242 million is just jaw-dropping. The gap there is jaw-dropping, right? So that in itself raises a few eyebrows. Again, fundamentally, we are talking about a country in economic crisis. And so these questions are important. Yes, there's national pride at stake. People like the fact that we are hosting this, but priorities are important. But if you're going to spend it in a time like this, you better be sure you're getting value for money, right? And when you begin to compare this, you begin to see why the questions are being asked. And then fundamentally, if you're spending that much, then you better also prepare your athletes to bring the pride. The pride is not just hosting the event for others to come and take away the medals. It's also about performing well, getting your athletes to show that this is our country, and so we're gonna make Ghanaians proud. And that's where also the pride is. I believe actually the pride is far more in winning more gold medals in the tournament than necessarily spending $242 million on infrastructure. Because as we know, even for the infrastructure that we have currently, trust me, our maintenance culture will in the next year or two, we'll go back to these places and we'll begin to ask questions about what happened. You don't have to look far. Accra Sports Stadium, what we did with the Kumasi Sports Stadium, we build them, but we don't maintain them. And so it becomes a liability and not an asset eventually. But when you win the gold, that is how you begin to market your country, because people remember you. I'll come to the point about why we all know about Egypt. We know about Morocco. We know about South Africa when it comes to the games, because they win the most. And just check the global reports. A lot of the reports have been about the countries topping the medal table. It's not necessarily about Ghana hosting it. That is something we should pause for a second to think about. And if you look at this particular graph here, it tells us that over the years, our medal haul has been dropping, right? So 2003, we had 24 medals, all the way down. And this has been consistent, to the point where in 2019 in Morocco, we had only 13. So something is fundamentally wrong with the whole architecture around our participation, right? And then you come to hosting it. My prediction is this 13 in 2019 will fall even further. That's what the evidence shows, because from 24 in 2003 to 13 in 2019, the trend is very obvious. Hosting, will it change anything? My guess will come into the conversation later, but this isn't great enough, is it? And then you look at the medal haul, and this is as of this afternoon, but I want to show you what the latest medal table looks like. And this is what a medal table looks like right now. You look at the country like Egypt. Egypt has a significant haul when it comes to the medals, a total of 75 medals in total. That is pretty impressive. You have Algeria there with 52, and then you have South Africa with 45. Where is Ghana? Ghana is somewhere down there with a simple 4, right? In the reports that the global community will be talking about, they will not be talking about who hosted it per se. The focus will be on who led the medal table, right? Look at every tournament. The guys who win get the best coverage. The guys who win, the guys who play in the finals, they get the best coverage. But the country obviously leverages on the back of that, but it pales in comparison to the attention you get when you win. The last time there was a World Cup, what do you remember? Do you remember the host nation, or you remember that Argentina won and there was a certain Lionel Messi? That is my point. And that medal table you just saw, the live one, shows that we have spent a lot of money for only so far 4 medals. And that isn't good enough, right? So why did we spend 242 million to build infrastructure and to have operational expenses and not spend $2 million to get our teams ready? And we've been hearing complaints, have we not? We've had a few. We've had, for example, the lights at the Cape Coast Stadium. In spite of all the monies we spent on this, we somehow conspired to bring negative publicity to the event, right? If you haven't watched, this is what transpired. We're hosting this, and we saw that happen, and it was picked up by the international media, right? That view there went viral. It went viral. That view there went viral. And I was reading the reports on BBC and elsewhere where countries, the athletes from other countries say they were left stranded, they were shocked, they were groping in the dark when this happened. That is an embarrassment. For spending 242 million, you better get it right. So why didn't we have a generator on standby, considering that everybody knows that we're having power challenges right now? That's a fundamental question that must be asked. And then you go to one that also shocks me greatly. So this weekend, the cycling competition was held up for a long time. Why? Because the ambulance that must accompany the cyclist did not have fuel in it, right? I mean, that is shocking. And again, this was picked up by international reporters because this is a global event. This is a continent-wide event. The ambulance did not have fuel in it. And so the whole cycling competition was held up for a while until somebody manages to find fuel for the ambulance. That is just setting ourselves up for international ridicule. It's not us. We're just reporting it. Yes, spend the money, but make damn sure that you're making the most from that money you spent, 242 million. And then we have the cyclists who have been complaining that the equipment that they've been using is substandard. In fact, it's not up to the recommended standard for competing in cycling competition. They were giving aluminium bikes, when the international standard is to have different bikes made of a different material that is lighter, right? And that, again, is a fundamental issue. Fiber bikes is what they were expecting to have, but they were giving aluminium bikes. And so the competition, you fail before you even start because everybody else who's using the fiber bicycles are able to go faster. That's one complaint that we heard from the athletes themselves, the Ghanaian athletes who were participating. Again, players receive the equipment late. It's another issue. Some of them a day before they compete, so they haven't been familiar with what they're going to use. The badminton players, for example, went to the event in the bucket of the vehicle of their coach. So they complained there was no vehicle to transport the Ghanaian athletes playing badminton. Why? When we spend 47 million on operational expense to provide transportation for everybody, your own athletes, they had to get into the bucket of your vehicle, of your coach, to get to compete. Some of them actually have clothes coming that are not their size. The shoe sizes were wrong. It is a challenging commentary on hosting, especially when we spend 242 million. So tonight, my guest will join me for a conversation, right, on this matter. And we also have, infrastructure that is not complete just yet. To this, your Coke page. The lane of the turf is yet to commence. Hockey will now begin later when it's supposed to begin earlier. So let's have this conversation. We spend the money, so let's talk about it. How do we fix this? How do we somehow correct this? I mean, we've already spent the money, but between now and the time that the games end, we need to find a way of bringing glory back to the name Ghana in the wake of the negative reports. How do we do that? But again, who decided to spend this money without thinking about our athletes' competition and preparation into this, right? My guest will join me for a conversation. It is your taxpayers' funds that was used for this. Let's have this conversation right now. At the end of it, I will encourage you to join and go to the stadium and watch and participate. That in itself is a question about publicity. Where is the publicity? Where is enthusiasm? Because money was devoted for that. The 47 million, part of it was to be used to encourage people for publicity. I haven't seen. I want to go there and watch swimming. I'm struggling to get the details for this. Tonight I'll get it for myself and hopefully for you too. Stay with me. Thank you for staying with us here on PM Express. I love sports. Let's talk about it, especially when we invest a lot into it. Everybody will tell you investing in sports is great. But once you do, you better be sure that you're getting value for money. And PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough. Alomo Bitters experience greatness in every moment. Ghana AIDS Commission. Pepsodent, every smile matters. And no matter your water needs, Syntex Tanks has it all. They are first to introduce a double-layer tank, and now you can also have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tanks is first to introduce the white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce you to the customer specs order. They are bespoke, any size, any color. They have 7-year warranty. They are across the country. Call them 0244 335 168. Shop online at syntexgh.com. A strong, a tough. And then also there's Pepsodent Cavity, which I use, and I recommend it because they have profluoride and microcalcium ingredients, sealing tiny and invisible holes in your teeth. This prevents cavities, keeps your teeth strong and mouth healthy. Pepsodent, every smile matters. My guest joining me for a conversation today is Achu Tomakro, is my colleague here, and he has his
abusuafo story no na yakohwe de aban na chese ensem koso Ghana ha ensem koso krom ha chese de hia se obenya o data na obeba ententan so abusuafo chese obetimi asre a obetimi adwa wani betimi agya na chese social media no so de o so bia etimi eba so se de nkofo ka se digital no nyen blaso na eso enche me a me di dwumadi ho chia me frame nana agman wo mi so na frame ny ja meje so na mama piao peace out
yama owi akwa baba Mansa Media College. Mansa Media College a school power ya che TV so ene radio so dwumadie ya so ye e wo Kumase atonsu babia uwo bia opese oba Mansa Media College na be hu dwumadie yedi ne honmo a yentie dwumadia edino Amansan Media College.
Se usua bribi wo media mu ana opese ohunu bribi biara efa media ho ensu eche kra
Amansan Media College e wo homam
ye wa achochefo a wakwadiri yie wa adetwemu na in studio ni ye newsroom de editwam wonsam twemu no ye twe bribi ti se kasebo akenkan ni sinitwa ni bebura ekeka ho wo multimedia mu nso ye twe bribi ti se sini mfoni asiesie mfoni nitwa ni bebura ekeka ho ye betumi nso aboa ama wo de na otwepe asunya bribi wo nkitahudie adwuma ahodo nyinaamu esanse ye wo yankasa foni nti abu biara ye ma ya adesuafo kwan ma okọ yode ya twe won adesua dan mu no
ahwefo ehu ekame ese obi biara wo le bosomtwe ase enim abakosema efa nsuo ihu menya abofra kitu bi wa ha ono so onim abakosema efa le bosomtwe ho
abusuafo ye mama kwaba eba Ghana Pages TV so emra son se the trending issues near koso ewo abefo tentan fidie ni so ebesomo midin na naje wa akode
Amansan Media College ya ma de we hia bia wo nkotahudie mu